This is the single biggest movement in iCasino since it began. As we know, we have 6 states that have iCasino at the moment. It's not progressed and grown as quickly as sports betting. Okay, but now we're starting to see that movement, and I think that alone, even though Wyoming's already pulled out and it was only 3 weeks ago, but hey, even on the basis of those 14, it sends a message to the market that actually there's a real interest in taking the budget deficits that exist within the states and doing it in a proper regulated manner that looks after the players. So I think this is really important as well. The whole RG world in the states is starting to wake up, and that aligns with what's happening there.
This podcast is sponsored by Pragmatic Solutions, the player account management platform chosen by today's smart betting and gaming operators. Don't let technical constraints delay you from achieving your business goals. Expand your business, boost your margins, and dominate the market in any leading regulated jurisdiction with our powerful, flexible, and secure iGaming platform. Enjoy its extensive marketing tools, compliance protection, real-time data, and a wide portfolio of over 1,000 industry providers. It's time to upgrade your technology. Let Pragmatic Solutions show you the modern approach. Visit pragmatic.solutions and join the smart thinkers.
This podcast is brought to you by Pragmatic Play, a leading game developer providing player favorites to the most successful brands across the industry. With an award-winning multi-product portfolio of slots, live casino, bingo, virtual sports, and more, Pragmatic Play is powering up new possibilities of play through one single API. Visit pragmaticplay.com and discover your favorite every time.
Bingo, bango, bango, Martin Collins, one of the OGs of the podcast. You're back here today. How are you?
I'm good, Pierre. How are you? Everything good?
Yeah, fantastic. Except for, I must say, Martin, I just went back here to look at our original podcast recording from 2020. And I must admit, though, that we did look younger and so on and so forth. But we are a little bit wiser these days, I think.
Well, I hope we're a little bit wiser, but yeah, a little bit grayer as well, I think, right?
It goes with, no one waits for father time, as to say, but I'll take the wiseness for sure, Martin. So obviously, I don't know, Martin, is this the 4th recording we do together?
Fourth or 5th, I think, yes.
Oh my God, you're. I think you're at the high score actually.
You think I'm top of the table?
I think so, yeah.
I think so.
We need to do a check here in the background, but I'm pretty sure you are, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get the numbers with what I've got to say today.
That I have no doubt about, Martin. And obviously, you're the CBDO of SoftBet these days. You've been building and growing the team over there for quite some time. SoftBet, of course, is a comet in the industry, exponential growth year over year. I mean, first and foremost, how is it to work for an incredible growth organization like SoftBet?
Well, Pierre, I've been there for 18 months now. And I think when we spoke last year, I said the key difference was that SoftBet's a business of opportunity. And what I meant by that was that if something crosses our path that we think we can capitalise on, then we will take steps in order to do that. But after 18 months of being there, it's probably doubled, trebled, quadrupled 10 times than what I even thought a year ago when I'd only been there for 6 months or so. So it's I've never had so much exposure to different things on a daily basis. As I say, we look at opportunity on the basis of anything really, right? So it could be new market entry, it could be investment through the SoftBet Invest fund that we have, it could be new products, it could be innovation. Literally, it is. You use the word rocket ship, and I'm not sure that I like that so much. I think it's a bit cliche now, right? But genuinely, we go from strength to strength, and the revenue and the bottom line that we're creating is I've never seen anything like it, Pierre. I'm so proud to be part of this. It's going to be the one thing when I look back in my career that I think I'm going to be proudest of. So yeah, I'm loving it, absolutely loving it.
Excited to hear that, Martin. And on the journey that SoftBet is now on, the next big step is now to cross the pond and enter the United States as a market, and that's what we're gonna zoom in on today, which is basically why entering the US in 2025 is the right time. That seems like a controversial statement, doesn't it?
Well, it seems controversial on the face of things, but I'm comfortable that we've done the necessary investigation in order to truly understand that it is the right point, that it is the beginning of what a lot of people call the second wave, and we want to be at the forefront of that. And I think we're going to delve a little bit deeper into why that's the case, Pierre. So that's what I'm looking forward to today.
Yeah, brilliant. And just to kick off with, can you talk a little bit more on the plans on how you plan to enter the United States? Because I think you are both looking at B2C and B2B, right?
Okay, so when we enter a market, when we're doing the initial analysis, what we're trying to understand is what's the best way to enter this market. We see the opportunity, we see the numbers, and we know that with our product that we can make a splash, that we can enter and we can differentiate from what's already there. Now, when we look at it from a B2C perspective and we think that's the right way to go, it's when we believe that we really need to create a proof of concept. So what do I mean? I mean that we go into the market, we understand the challenges that you face within that market from a technical, an operational, a commercial perspective, and we face them head on. Now, what's interesting is that, particularly in the States, but even worldwide, if you ask the majority of operators that utilise B2B services and products, they will say they don't want to compete with their platform provider, for example. But I think my personal feeling on that is that the main challenges that you have with a platform provider stem from the fact that they don't understand B2C. They don't understand the challenges that you're facing on a day-to-day basis. And as a consequence, your priorities are not aligned with theirs. Going back to if you have a proof of concept, like we will in the States with B2C, we understand everything that they're going through. In fact, when they're coming to us, it's a partnership. Okay, because literally if they come to us and say we need this particular feature, it makes sense. We understand the challenge that they're going to go through if they're trying to integrate a particular third party, no matter what it may be. We understand what they're facing and what the situation is. So therefore, we don't become a bottleneck to their business. In fact, it's a partnership and we understand exactly where we stand. So that's the first thing. So from a B2C perspective and the proof of concept. From a B2B perspective, sometimes we might look at a market and we'll say, you know what, in order to localize here and provide a solution, we simply don't have the expertise. Okay, we don't have the local knowledge. So what we'll say is rather than doing B2C and creating a proof of concept, we'll create a partnership with a B2B customer, as we've recently done in Nigeria that you may have seen. So we've partnered with Channels Media Group, which is one of the largest media groups in Nigeria. They literally have tens of millions of eyeballs on their TV stations on a daily basis. And we utilise them, okay, in terms of a partnership in order to launch into that market. So there's many ways of doing things. The third way, okay, which is also possible, is acquisition. So we may look at a particular market and we may say, you know what, they guys are operating that incredibly well, but we believe that we could bring value. It may be through our own platform. It may be through some operational piece that we have. But ultimately, we look at it and we see synergies and the opportunity to increase the value that's already there. So you have three ways of looking at it: B2C proof of concept, B2B partnership, a JV if you like, and then obviously acquisition. So these are the three, when we look at a market and identify an opportunity, these are the three ways that we're looking at entering that market. And when it comes to New Jersey, we plumped for the proof of concept. We want to go through all of the challenges that every operator faces on a day-to-day basis so that when we go and speak to them, we understand what they're facing. That's key.
Brilliant. So the starting point here, as if I understand it correctly, is entering New Jersey, where you just got your license. Mm-hmm. You do it on your own accord, using your own kind of B2B tools and products that you built and been successful with in Europe and other places. Mm-hmm. And once you have established that proof of concept in the state of New Jersey, you might then look to establish yourself in other states as well through these other means potentially, or to do a replicate.
Okay, so it's twofold, right? So you can given the opportunity, you can look to expand your B2C into other states. As we know, there's no harmonisation between regulation, not even in the US. There's different variance and different severity of the regulation that needs to be delivered, again, both from a technically and an operational and a commercial perspective. So it varies. So actually moving into other states will give us more exposure from the proof of concept. But the idea is that once our products have a level of maturity within the market, then we can sell them from a B2B perspective. So we know, for example, we've spoken about Mega a lot, our gamification solution. We know the impact that it can have, but once you actually see it working and being battle tested in a market, it becomes much more compelling for potential operators. So if somebody is operating within New York, for example, okay, and they want to increase their ROI, okay, then they would come to us and they would say, okay, your Mega product, we really love this, and we can integrate it to them from a B2B perspective. So that's the idea, is that actually it's almost like a shop window that we're creating, and a shop window of success, because we can show exactly how it works, we can show how it creates differentiation, and we can show how it can gain market share for a much less cost than what maybe the current incumbents are investing in order to get that market share.
Brilliant. So okay, so let's reevaluate the theory here. So essentially, at the first point, you are looking for proof of concept, create a lot of data, battle test the platform, so on and so forth, and then using this very clear and obvious data, you can then go to external B2C partners and sell the B2B tools to them, basically showing them, look at what we have created here. The numbers don't lie. If you want better retention, if you want lower cost of acquisition and so on, this is the tools to use, basically. And that is the 1-2 approach you are taking, essentially.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the challenge. At the moment, you will find lots of established iGaming and sports betting brands expanding. Okay, and they have an idea of what they want from a platform perspective. But where the true growth really lies, particularly in the States, I think over the longer term, mid to longer term, or with the tribes, once that starts to open up, and with non-traditional gaming companies. So what do I mean by that? I mean media businesses like channels that we have partnered with in Nigeria, telcos, banks, all of these verticals, as the industry matures from a regulatory perspective, are starting to look at our industry, and they have established customer bases and they want to utilise them and drive them into this area. Now, they have no understanding whatsoever of this space. So what we can do, because we understand the challenges, is that when we're going through the process, we can say, here are the 5 main challenges that you're going to face, and here's what we will do in order to alleviate that challenge and help you overcome it. Whereas some of the platforms that are on the market are simply platform-only solutions. So they get given a platform and they're supposed to operate it, and they have an inability to do that because they have no experience within our space. Yes, they can go and hire a 100-person team, but why would you do that when you have an alternative that can actually help you both from a product, an operational and a commercial perspective in order to enter this wonderful world that we live in, Pierre?
Yeah, brilliant. And Martin, just to kind of take a helicopter view on the iGaming industry as it stands today. So, the landscape is evolving very rapidly. Brazil just regulated. All eyes are on Latin America for the most part. Africa perhaps is the next frontier. You have growth markets like the Philippines that are exponentially growing year on year. Many emerging markets out there that are simply exploding for the moment being. At the same time, the United States seems to be pulling back to some extent, where a lot of operators are exiting the market. Like just in the last year, Kindred, Betfred, 888, Tipico have all pulled out from the US market. For the most part, European brands that have kind of tried to enter the promised land of US failed because it's been too expensive and pulled out from the market. It doesn't seem like there are many new entries that are brave enough to focus on the US when there are so many other opportunities out there in the bigger context. So my question to you is, why are you choosing to spend your marketing efforts and commercial efforts in the US in comparison to the many other opportunities out there when the market have proven so challenging for so many players?
Okay, so there's many reasons, but I think the overall point to make here is that what somebody sees as dead, other people see as an opportunity. And we genuinely see it as an opportunity. But as I said, there's various reasons for that. I think primarily the market has shifted a little bit. So my first point is about the market shifting. So if you go back 3 or 4 years and you look, particularly in New Jersey, at the market access deals that were available, they may have been up to double the cost of what you can get it for now.
Oh yeah, so it's lowered. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's simply supply and demand, right? Okay. So there's more available than there are actual operators, whereas 3-4 years ago, there was people fighting it out for them. Yeah. There was more demand than there was supply. So invariably, in a market like the States, the price shifts. So what does that mean? It means that ultimately your ROI can be achieved much faster. Okay, because that's the key investment in the States. It's your market, and particularly in New Jersey, it's your market access deal. So that's available now at a fraction of the cost of what it was previously. That's the first thing. The second thing for us centres around the product. Okay, and many people will have heard me talk about this a lot. But the UI UX, not just in the US, but let's focus on the US, is the UI UX that's been given to the customer is 15 to 20 years old. In the States in particular, the UI UX that exists was originally a European UI UX because there was such a rush in order to be first to market in the majority of states that they took platform providers from Europe. They might have even the European players that went in brought their UI UX from Europe. So therefore it's not localized. Now you could argue European expectation and US expectation is similar, and it is, but there's some key differences in terms of what's expected. So that's very, very important, that we believe that the product that is on offer there is I don't want to say subpar, because that would be controversial, all right, but we believe that we can deliver a better customer experience than what's available on the market at the moment. Now that flows into lots of different things. It flows into the registration flow, okay, how the customer first interacts. It flows into the mobile experience. Everybody, I'm sure, reads the E&K app analysis that they've introduced and deliver every quarter. I'll be very interested to see what the analysis of ours is going to be, because not only will we have the normal casino and sports offering within the app, but we're also going to have the gamification features. So that'll be very interesting, because what we believe is that we cater for the mobile native customer. Now, I think I've said to you before, I didn't grow up with a mobile in my hand, Pierre. So therefore, my expectation of mobile is very different to my children. What they expect from their mobile experience is very different. And often they will come to me and they'll show me features within my phone that I didn't even know existed. Okay, so the point being is that their expectation is very, very different. And what we're trying to do is we are taking mechanics from casual gaming, from e-commerce, from social, and we're delivering that within the gambling experience, and therefore it becomes like home for them, and as a consequence the engagement and the loyalty increases. And this is when we start talking about the ROI being increased, because rather than customers coming back to us because we give them bonus, because we give them free spins, they come back to us because they're actually engaged with the brand, and as a consequence you don't need to spend as much, 1, acquiring, and 2, retaining. So the ROI is much greater, and we believe that our product does that. So to recap, the UI UX at the moment, we believe in the States with the current incumbents can be bettered. And we believe that we have the product in order to do that. And then as a consequence, again, that massively impacts the bottom line. So you can see where I'm going here. I've made 2 points so far, and both of them account for the bottom line.
Yeah. Exactly. Charlie Munger used to say that when people are greedy, it's time to be scared.
Yes.
And when people are scared, it's time to be aggressive, right? And that's what you were talking about here now. There's a pullback in the US, and the industry is focusing elsewhere, and this is why there is now an opportunity than in the US.
Absolutely. There's no question. I mean, there's various other factors as well. That if you go and look back to the first week of January in 2025, there was 14 individual legislators that took steps in order to push iCasino in particular. This is the single biggest movement in iCasino since it began. As we know, we have 6 states that have iCasino at the moment. It's not progressed and grown as quickly as sports betting. Okay, but now we're starting to see that movement. And I think that alone, even though Wyoming's already pulled out and it was only 3 weeks ago, but hey, even on the basis of those 14, it sends a message to the market that actually there's a real interest in taking the budget deficits that exist within the states and doing it in a proper regulated manner that looks after the players. So I think this is really important. And well, the whole RG world in the States is starting to wake up, and that aligns with what's happening there. So I think that's another very, very key point. The market itself is indicating to us that there's an opportunity and it's growing, and we want to be there to capitalize on that.
Yeah. So essentially, you're looking at the market today and how it's been operating over the last 4 years or something like this, especially on the iCasino side. Only 6 states are regulated today, and we've somewhat taken for granted that there is not really much movement taking place. And so that's also part of why maybe the wider international industry is looking elsewhere. But actually, there's another, 44 states that eventually, sooner or later, might have this topic on the agenda. And if we think about the industry from a 10-year perspective, perhaps we could assume that there is a lot of states that should be interested during this course of time to regulate. They want tax revenue, of course. You speak a lot about certain states that have a budget deficits that obviously would be interested to eventually regulate iCasino and so on and so forth. So we could see a watershed moment where a lot more states all of a sudden open up, and then all of a sudden, boom, the market is now an emerging market again, if we look at the US.
Yeah, and we have to look at what is actually happening in the States at the moment. So we can see that Sweepstakes is growing and burgeoning. But at the same token, if you take Michigan and Connecticut, for example, they've both taken steps in order to stop Sweepstakes, okay, because they are iCasino states, and the tax revenue from Sweepstakes is a fraction of what it would be from real money iCasino. So as a consequence, with the movement into Sweepstakes, I actually see that accelerating the movement for the states into iCasino, because even though there might be perceived issues with regards to cannibalization of retail players, even though there's perceived issues from an RG perspective, they can be in much more control of iCasino within their state and understand truly the revenue that's coming than something that isn't quite as clear when it comes, for example, with Sweepstakes.
Yeah. And what's your kind of analysis of the market as a whole, if you observe it, especially with this trend of kind of alternative products and alternative means to enter the real money gaming space in the US today? DFS 2.0, you mentioned Sweepstakes, social casino. Now the hottest new trend is the prediction markets with Crypto.com, Kalshi, Robinhood, who are trying to offer sports betting-like products to the entire country via these trading platforms rather than the regulated sports betting approach. How do you interpret all of this, if you think about it as well? And it seems to me that this is a reaction to the slow-moving regulatory landscape and other players trying to find loopholes kind of into the market somehow. But how will this all play out, do you think?
Okay, so let me give you an example of a state that has again reignited its legislature in trying to push iCasino, and it's Maryland. So they tried last year and it got blocked, and they're trying to do it again. So we'll find out in November this year whether that's been pushed through. But it seems positive at the moment. It's the second time round, and it seems to be positive now. Being European, if you saw that, you would say, okay, so 2026, actually, we're going to go live. But no, because in Maryland, you need a referendum. So when it comes to gambling products, you need the entire democratic process to go through with every individual that's legible to vote. So therefore, in 2026, there would need to be a referendum. Assuming that went positively, it would be 2027 before you actually can have live iCasino. So the way that I see it, and every state is different. As I said, there's no harmonisation even from a political perspective. So every state takes relatively long period of time in order to get where we need to get to in order to go live. So what do we need in the meantime? We need alternatives. Okay, and I think that if you look at, I've given my take on sweepstakes. As I say, everybody seems to be into the market on sweepstakes at the moment. Somebody recently asked me, Pierre, if we would be going into the sweepstakes market, and it reminded me of a Warren Buffett quote. So Warren Buffett used to live in an apartment in New York, and when he went downstairs every day, there was a shoe shine guy. This must have been, I don't know, in the 80s or something, because I've not seen a shoe shine guy in New York for a long time. But he used to come downstairs, and sometimes he used to get his shoe shined. And he had this rule that if the shoe shine guy told him about a stock that he had to invest in, and he already had a position in it, he would go straight upstairs and sell his position. The point being is that maybe the opportunity there is a bit lost because there's so many people involved with it. I mean, there's hundreds, maybe thousands of brands that I've heard about over the last 6 months that are either in or entering that market. So that's the first thing. But then we speak about social. I think social is an interesting solution, but I think that the people that are engaging in it are maybe engaging in it in order to create a database that will be applicable to real money once it becomes available. And from the DFS perspective, perhaps that's the case too, to a degree, because if you look at FanDuel and DraftKings, much of their success was built on the existing database that they had. But I actually think there's a space for DFS, proper DFS, as it was previously within our industry. I think the demographics very different from gambling, traditional gambling on a day-to-day basis, on sports and finding your position, etc. And then with regards to the prediction-based markets, listen, the entire world's changing at the moment with Trump having coming back into play, and he seems to be very buoyant with regards to the whole crypto world and what's happening there. So it's interesting that if we'd spoke about this last week, okay, maybe Robinhood would have had a product ready for the Super Bowl, but it seems that the regulator has blocked it now. So there's going to be regulatory hurdles that these guys need to overcome as well, particularly in the States, because everybody is very, very conscious of what needs to happen, again, from a commercial, operational and a product perspective. So yeah, all of these things are there, but I think it's with a precursor to iCasino really growing and becoming mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. It seems to me that you have these short-term opportunities as alternatives to enter the market, but really and truly, if you want to build a long-term, sustainable organization, if you have the capital and the means to do it, again, sooner or later, the regulatory kind of side of the industry will probably catch up at some point, you would hope, so essentially. And so the more sustainable players are, of course, choosing that strategy in the long term. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the other thing to think about, Pierre, as well, is that although there's nothing solid, there's been murmurs with regards to the anti-competition bodies within the States looking at FanDuel and DraftKings. They blocked a merger, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago when there was a discussion about a potential merger. It was blocked because in some states they would have had up to 90% of the market. Okay, but between them they still have a fair old chunk of the market share there. And what I could see happening is that in order to encourage innovation, in order to encourage other players coming into the market and creating healthy competition, I could see perhaps if they've been pushed a little bit and not been able to go into new iCasino markets and be quite as aggressive. And that also creates an opportunity for the second coming and for people like us to come in and really take advantage of the situation. So that's another reason that we're thinking that this is the right time to do it.
Yeah, brilliant. And have you had any feedback so far? You obviously haven't gone live yet, I suppose, in New Jersey, but have you had any feedback on the product itself? Can you talk a little bit more about the differentiation of your product? You talk about the UX in some of the operators today being a bit dated and so on, but can you go into more specifics of why your product is seemingly primed for this market and so much better.
Of course, and it all stems from the expectation, Pierre. Now, if we're talking about a traditional customer who's maybe my age, I'm nearly 45, then listen, me going onto a mobile app, I know what I expect to see, and like I said, it's the UI UX from 15 years ago. That's what I'm comfortable with. So that's okay. That's a cohort within your audience, within your customer base, all right? And that will still exist, no questions. But the expectation of new customers coming into our industry is very, very different. So if you do, I mentioned the SoftBet Invest Fund earlier, and as a consequence over the last 6 months or so, I've spoken to a lot of new businesses, new technologies coming into the industry. And I think the one theme that runs true through all of them is that they're trying to create an experience for the new customer coming through. Okay, and to manage something around their expectation. So, for example, AI and video. So everybody loves video. Everybody knows that your customer engages with it better than they do with static images. It's just a fact. Okay, but then if you start applying AI to that and then creating personalized experiences for the customer on the basis of the interaction that they've had with you. So it's not just, for example, a bet recommendation engine. What you can actually do is you can have the bet recommendation. So on the basis of the bets that they've made with you previously, you can say, okay, here's the bet. But then you can create an AI-based video in order to give them an overview of the bet, an overview of the match, an overview of the statistics that exist on that match, previous results, players that might be missing that have a massive impact on the outcome of the result. All of this comes together in order to create something really compelling. And I think the way that we look at it is that you're not competing with other sportsbooks anymore. You're not competing with other casinos. When people are sat on their couch in the evening and they're watching the game, okay, or they're doing something else, okay, they might be on TikTok, they might be on some sort of casual game, they might be on Netflix, they might be on socials. There's all of these things that you have to compete with. And genuinely, if you're going to add to your bottom line, you need to be able to offer this, because a player who comes in, bets, leaves, okay, it's okay. But imagine a player that comes in, engages with the brand, looks at different elements. It might be gamification, it might be the personalisation, and they spend time on your site. I can't say enough that ultimately, if you increase that engagement and that loyalty towards your brand, then it materially impacts your bottom line. So it's innovation, but it's literally we're taking mechanics and functions from other industries that are staple and have come to be expected from the customer base that is now 25 to 35 years old. So, and the important thing to think about that as well, Pierre, is that the potential spend, the potential ability for them to come in and engage and genuinely add to your bottom line is there now. It's not like when they were 20 years old and they had no disposable income. So this is very, very, very important. And just one last thing as well, right? That with all of these elements, actually what you're doing is you're becoming a more responsible operator as well. Okay, because if somebody has, let's say, $50 to spend, okay, what they would have done previously, if it's casino, they would have made 10 spins and then they would have been gone. Now, with the UI UX that we're creating, they can make 10 spins, but at the same time, they've been generating points or coins on the gamified side. Then they engage with that component of your site. And whilst they're doing that, they're being rewarded back within the casino. So it actually makes the spend over a much longer period of time and therefore a lot more responsible. Yeah. So this is important.
Yeah, brilliant. So to summarize, it's essentially like the internet experience, let's say from a online gambling perspective in the last 20 years has mainly been about refining and optimizing the system as they are.
Yes.
Whereas if you look at how people use the internet on a bigger scale, trends are clearly moving towards kind of consuming video, consuming shorter form content, being served the content that you want, and so on and so forth. And we are saying here that now is the time to essentially stop to iterate your existing product and bring something new to the table. The market is ready for something different that is more with the times, let's say, of the internet as a whole, let's say, something like that.
No, you've hit the nail on the head. Another example would be ChatGPT.
Yes.
I literally use this 20 times a day, and it's made my efficiency tenfold. It's incredible, right?
Insane, yeah.
It's really, I love using it. I get frustrated when it won't put things into a document for me, but hey, it's an amazing tool, right? And again, that's quite a recent phenomenon. It's quite a recent phenomenon, but if I look at my kids, okay, they're using it more than I am. I love it and I use it every day, but they're using it as we used to use Google.
Yeah,
That's how they use it now. That's how they consume the information. Now imagine that you could have something like ChatGPT within your casino or your sportsbook offering in order for them to help find offers, in order to help them find games, in order for them to find games that are specific to what they're looking for. You can build a profile and you can make recommendations again. So this, again, the expectation of the experience is changing, Pierre, and we want to cater for that. That's the key.
Yeah, brilliant. You could come in with fresh eyes, with a first principle thinking, and bring in something more up to date to the market. I like it. What would you say your overall goals are in the market? How ambitious are you with this push into the US? Are you looking to kind of create this, establish yourself and kind of see where this goes, or do you have more kind of aggressive targets here? Like, what are you looking to achieve here?
Okay, so we launched into Ontario in October, which I know is not the US, okay, but it's still North America, and it's a similar but different market. We're going to launch into New Jersey, and from there we will start to see the proof of concept specifically for New Jersey and in some of the other states within the US. We will definitely, during that period, be looking at potential B2B deals. So whether that's our gamification, whether we find a great opportunity from a platform perspective. We're very, very specific about the types of customers that we want to work with. We don't want to deal with absolutely everybody. As I told you earlier, specifically, there's probably 3 main key areas within the US that we believe where we can bring value. So if that opportunity presents itself, then for sure it's something that we would consider and we would go through the process and look at. If, as I was saying earlier, one of these 13, 14 states decides that it's going to open up from an iCasino perspective, then listen, we are a casino business, so therefore that would be an opportunity that we would consider. We're very analytical as an organisation, Pierre, that's why I'm using ChatGPT every day to tell me what the numbers mean. But genuinely, we need to look at the opportunity. We need to look at everything's changing. I mean, we've just spoken here about all of the alternatives. We've spoken about some of the challenges from a rollout perspective in each state. So it really depends. We need to look at the numbers, we need to look at the situation, and we need to decide if that particular situation is something that we want to invest in. We'll be very specific. If we believe that we can bring value, if we believe we find a partner that we can bring value to, or there's a potential acquisition, then we'll consider it on its merit and we'll decide from there. But yes, the appetite for the US and for North America, Alberta's going to open as well, okay, is very much on our radar. We've started as a European business. Okay, we are in North America now, we're also in LATAM as well. We're looking towards Asia too, and we launched in Africa. So we genuinely believe that we're a worldwide organisation that can deal with the majority of situations depending upon how we structure it and how we view it. So America is very much on our agenda, and if the opportunity is right, then we'll seize it and we'll take advantage of it for sure.
Yeah, brilliant. I like it, Martin. This is they say that it's definitely not for the faint of heart to enter the US. It's for the brave ones. So I really salute you for being brave and taking difficult decisions here.
Yeah, Pierre, often the decision is not the right or wrong situation. Okay, so a lot of people talk about the decision and whether you make the right or the wrong decision. I don't believe that actually there's a wrong decision. I believe there's right and wrong execution. Okay, so if you make the execution properly on the decision, then you can make it a success. And I suppose I'm an eternal, if you speak to anybody who knows me, I'm an eternal optimist. But genuinely in this case, I see it being a massive opportunity to take some market share, to make some profit for our group as a whole. Yes, the investment is big. Yes, it's going to take a lot of work, but that's something that we thrive upon at SoftBet.
Fortune favors the brave, I was going to say.
Yes.
And another thing also, Martin, is you are obviously the headline partner with us in New York for Next New York, which is taking place on the 12th and 13th of March.
Yes.
So we are, of course, looking forward to work together to create a success in that show, just like you were the headline partner last year as well. What are you looking to achieve during your visits to New York in March?
Okay, so when we get to New York, one of the main things that David, Yatom, our GC, and myself, who will be attending, are keen to identify is obviously third-party vendors. Okay, because again, going back to what we spoke about before, traditionally third-party vendors within the US have been relatively expensive in comparison to Europe, in comparison to other markets. So we're quite keen to look at different alternatives as we launch into the market and understand what level of value these guys can bring, if they can increase conversions, if they can increase engagement. So third-party vendors, I'm very happy to hear from and happy to meet with them when I'm in New York. The second thing is obviously we're going to do a presentation in terms of our launch into the US. Okay, so we're going to talk about the current situation and we're going to maybe put something more visual to it, Pierre.
Oh,
so rather than just you and I talking, we've got some videos and we've got some things to share with the market so they can see exactly what we're doing. And also from the SoftBet Invest perspective, if there's any small, medium businesses out there that are keen to identify a strategic partner, this is really important to highlight. We're not a typical investment fund that will give you the cash and leave and run away and then come back 3 years looking for 5 times our money. We want to utilise our liquidity with your product in order to drive you forward, whilst also giving you money in order to grow your operation and become successful elsewhere as well. So if anybody is in that situation, then by all means, please get in touch with me, and I'm very, very happy to speak to them.
Exciting, Martin. Well, I'm looking forward, of course, to see you in New York and following up the conversation over there. Until then, I wish you all the best of luck, Martin.
No, thank you for having me again, Pierre. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Cheers.